morning. This episode of Courage Dear Heart is being brought to you from my freedom group, my free Facebook group. And it's an Ask Me Anything. I put it out there because it's Christmas coming up at the time of recording this. This is 2022, December. I'm going to be having a 3-week break very soon, and I thought what I will do is I will put it out there and I will answer any and all questions that come through from the members of my group. So I'm recording this live in said group, and this is something I do once a month, sometimes twice a month, it depends, but definitely once a month in my circle community. I come on exactly like this and answer all the questions that come through. So I got 6 questions for this Ask Me Anything, and I'm going to do my best to get through them all. And they're all really interesting and very different questions. So I just want to thank the women that sent me a question, because I know in a group, like this, that's got 1,500 women in, probably more, that it can take a lot of courage to kind of put your head above the parapet and ask a question so publicly. So I appreciate all of you who did. And I'm going to start with the first question that came through from a lady called Paula. I'm not going to read the second names, but they know who they are. And the first question, it says, I still really struggle with feeling good enough. I know that I'm going through the menopause, the perimenopause. Let me just see. Sorry, I just need to read the full question. Right, I'll start again. Paula, I'm still really struggling with feeling good enough. Now I'm going through the perimenopause, and this seems to be making it worse. What can I do? Will I ever change how I feel about myself? Now, the reason Paula says I'm still struggling with really not feeling good enough is because Paula is one of the ladies who put her hand up for free coaching that went live on the group, and you can find that on my podcast. If you want to listen to Paula's being coached by me, let me know and I'll send you the podcast episode. But that is also on my freedom group, on my free group, under a guide section. So Paula's saying she's still not feeling good enough, and she thinks that the perimenopause is making it worse. What can I do? Will I ever change how I feel about myself? The answer is yes. You can feel differently about yourself, Paula, but it's not like a quick fix, right? It's not like I can snap my fingers and say one thing to you which will make you feel better. This is a process of seeing that you haven't given up, because you're asking the question, will I ever feel better about myself? Will I ever feel good enough? But you're also dealing with however old you are, let's say you're 40 something, you're dealing with 40 years worth of not feeling good enough. So that's 40 years worth of listening to a certain thought, which has become a belief. A belief is a thought carried through time. And essentially listening to that and believing that thought over and over and over and over and over and over again. Now, when we're in the perimenopause or the menopause or postmenopause, I'm postmenopausal now, which means I haven't had, you're officially postmenopausal when you haven't had a period or a bleed for a year. That puts you into postmenopausal. So I'm there because I haven't had a period since April 2020. And perimenopause can last quite a lot of years. It can be from early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. Typically, I know people can get it earlier, and there isn't like a one rule and a one size fits all. But if your symptoms are getting worse of feeling frustrated or annoyed or angry or not good enough, if that's getting worse, it's because in perimenopause, at the age that we are as women, when we start going through the next phase of our lives, your invitation, Paula, is to stop and take note of how your body's talking to you. Now, when we're under stress, women, when we're under stress, what happens is we activate our stress response, right? And when we activate our stress response, cortisol is released. One of the neurotransmitters that is released is something called cortisol, which you'll have probably heard of. It's a stress hormone. And it's released alongside adrenaline and noradrenaline. Now, I'm really simplifying this, all right? But there is a stress response that gets activated within your body every time you get stressed. And many of us live in a constant state of stress, which causes dysregulation and inflammation in and of itself. Now, when as a woman we are stressed, we need that cortisol. The cortisol is released. Now that system is brilliant. It's perfect. It's made for us to run away, for survival, but it isn't actually meant to be activated all day, every day. And so this is the problem. And what starts to happen is your sex hormones, estrogen, testosterone, progesterone, are made from cholesterol. And then that cholesterol makes something called pregnenolone. And that pregnenolone makes your sex hormone. So cholesterol, so think about it as like a little triangle. You've got cholesterol here at the top, then that makes pregnenolone, and then that makes your sex hormones. If you're constantly stressed, what happens is the pregnenolone gets stolen by the cortisol. It makes the cortisol as well. And so it's called the pregnenolone steal. Now, when this happens, it impacts and influences your body, your hormones, which impact the way you feel and the way your body reacts to certain things. So it feels like my if I'm not in the perimenopause or the menopause or anything to do with the menopause, my PMT is worse, my periods are worse, my pain is worse, because your body is incredibly wise and she tries to talk to you. And most women don't know how to listen into her, don't listen to their intuition, don't listen to their joy, what brings them joy, because they spend so much time feeling not good enough and people pleasing and doing everything to make everyone else feel better and feel okay. And then they've got paranoia in there, and what if what I've said is upset this person, and we can go on and on and on. And every time we do, we activate that stress response, which steals the pregnenolone, which impacts your sex hormones. So that's the thing I want you to get just from that piece, right? To understand what's going on in your body every time you pay attention to stressful thinking, which is probably a lot of the time, particularly, Paula, if you are feeling not good enough in lots of areas of your life. Now, if I have that belief of not being good enough, my brain, which is a machine, will find evidence for my theory. That's what a brain does. It finds evidence that your theory is correct. So what happens is, if I have the belief, which remember is just a thought that it's been carried through time and believed over and over again, which is how it becomes a belief. It's not concrete and it's not true. But if that is my truth, my brain will be finding evidence for my theory in every single area of my life, which is why I end up creating the life that I lead. Now, that's quite difficult for people to take on, because it really looks like I don't feel good enough because ABC, this person's done this, or my life circumstances are this. And it really looks like from where we're sitting that things on the outside can impact you and have the power to impact you, But that's not actually true. And when you think that, you feel like a victim of circumstances or people. Now, how do you change how you feel about yourself? Is you do this work. Like, Paula, you could join my circle community and come in and get, coaching with me. You could do my programs, one of my programs that would help you to understand this inside out nature of life, how we create, how we innocently create this experience of life through fear, through not knowing who we are underneath all of the sort of complex thoughts that we have, that we've kind of established over usually many, many years. And it's a good place to start my freedom program or the circle group, to really hear hope. Most of you will have seen in my community the video where I was being coached that I've shared. And if you haven't seen that video of me being coached back in 2018, let me know and I'll send you, it's a private link. I can send you that video. But on that video in 2018, which isn't that long ago, I was chronically anxious. I had chronic PTSD. I had issues with addictions and not knowing who I was, and disconnected from my body and disconnected from myself, and had all sorts of physical health problems, including really bad swollen eyes and conjunctivitis, and my hair fell out, and there were so many things. And that was 2018. Now, I have done this work. I have worked on myself. I've had a coach. I have looked with kindness and love at the places that I really needed to look at with kindness and love, rather than constantly slagging myself off, constantly thinking there was something wrong with me, constantly believing my evidence that I was creating that there was something wrong with me. And that's how we do it. We look at it with love. So yes, it's absolutely possible to change how you feel about yourself, Paula. And it just takes a little bit of courage, and it takes a little bit of investing in time and investing in money in yourself, so that you can see that that is a possibility, because it is. I wouldn't be sitting here saying that if I didn't genuinely believe that that was true. And that's why I share that video of me being coached back in 2018, to show you the journey that I have come on over the last few years, and to show you that it's absolutely possible. It's not easy. There is no quick fix, and I would be lying to you if I said that there was. But it takes being open to the possibility that you can get to feel good enough, that there is nothing wrong with you. You were never broken to begin with, and you're just dealing with years of conditioning, years of it. So that's my answer to Paula. My second question, and thank you very much for the question. My second question is from Bindi, who said she would be asleep at the time that I was recording this, and she's in Australia. So let me know if you watch this later, Bindi, or anyone, if you're watching this later. If you're watching this now, give me a wave, give me a hello, so I know that you're here. And if you're watching this later, let me know as well, because it's really cool if I know that people are finding this helpful. So Bindi has said, I have been in this conversation for around 4 years now. When she says I've been in this quote unquote conversation, what that means, to those of you who don't know, is that she's been in the conversation around the 3 principles, which is one of the ideas in psychology that I teach, the inside out nature of life. She goes on to say, it has definitely changed my life and my anxiety and so much more. But one thing I still struggle with is independence. Before my anxiety hit in my late 20s and 2 breakdowns, I was super independent. now in my late 40s, I still rely on my hubby too much, especially for driving. I'm still scared of venturing out alone. So thank you for that, Bindi. And I want to say, as I'm reading through this question, and I want to just point this out because I think this is important. The way you have worded your question, it's not so much a question. You're saying that you still struggle with independence, right? But what you said here is that it's definitely changed your life, the principles, you've seen stuff around your anxiety and your life and so much more. And then there's this sort of judgment, right? So the judgment comes in. Before my anxiety hit in my late 20s and 2 breakdowns, I was super independent. Now in my late 40s, eek is what you said. Like there's some judgment about time and there's judgment about age. And you're saying you rely on your husband too much. Well, what does too much mean? What are you making that mean? Like, I don't know. That will be completely unique for you. So what I'm hearing is that you've got this idea that there's something really big that you haven't seen around yet. So there's this sort of pressure to see something around my independence or my codependence or whatever it is that you're judging it as. And you're saying that it's particularly around driving and you're scared of venturing out alone. There's quite a lot here, and I'm going to try and keep it as succinct as I can to be as helpful as it can possibly be, Bindi. But you're not scared of venturing out alone. You're scared of your thinking about venturing out alone. You are judging yourself for relying, as you call it, on your husband. So there's judgment there, which keeps it alive and keeps it like this big thing over here that looks like it's a problem to be solved because there's something that I need to fix, which is this need for someone else to help me, either to drive me somewhere or to come with me wherever I need to go. So I'd love to hear from you, like whether you feel like you can post it on the comments when you wake up later and listen to this, like how has this understanding, how has the principles helped you with your anxiety? Like what have you seen for yourself around this? Now you say here as well that you had an anxiety hit in your late 20s when you had 2 breakdowns. So what I'm also hearing is that there's this before and after. Before my breakdowns and after my breakdowns. So there's this like, I was okay before and I was super independent. Again, that's your experience, right? Your experience of life is that you were super independent, which can also be a response to trauma. But again, that's a different subject, which I don't want to get into because I don't know your story. And then there's after the breakdowns where you consider that there's something wrong, that you're now not independent and that means something about you rather than it doesn't mean anything about anything. And what we do is we pluck these judgments and criticisms and labels out of the sky, and then we make them mean something about us because we think there's something wrong with us. And here we go, here's our evidence, right? My evidence is I can't go out on my own, rather than at this moment, and it doesn't mean anything, I'd really love that my husband drives me around. And if I have no thinking about that or judgment about that, it would just be my husband is driving me around until I don't need him to. Right. But whilst you've got heavy thinking and heavy judgment on this quote unquote fact, it will feel like a thing that you need to see something around. And whilst it feels like a thing, it's heavy rather than it just is what it is. And it doesn't actually matter. And when something doesn't matter, there's more freedom. in the experience of needing your husband or not needing your husband, of going outside of the house on your own or not going outside of the house on your own. And most people I work with, Bindi, they have similar issues. They often, they don't feel good enough, or they don't like to go out, or they don't like driving on motorways, because there's something very real and very scary about the thought of those things, about not being safe. But it isn't the actual thing. It's your thinking about the thing. Because if I get you to think about, going out in your car now, you'll be like, oh, you might have a constricted reaction to it, which means you, in this moment right now, are having an experience where you're imagining the thought of the driving, but it's coming from your thinking about the driving. It doesn't mean anything. It only has meaning for you. It only has meaning for you. And that's the thing with anything, is that it's our experience of it. It's we are the ones who make it a problem. We are the ones who think we need to be fixed. We are the ones, particularly those of us who are in the principles conversation, we might have seen something around something, and then we hold this big, heavy, weight around this thing I need to see. And it's okay if you just let it go and put it down and see that it's okay. And it will be okay until you don't need it anymore. And that's how things change. It's easier than you think if you just let the weight go of the heaviness around it, and particularly about what you're making that mean about you. So thank you for that question, Bindi. And number 3, I have Simmone. So Simone's question. Oh, hi, Sandra. Simone's question is, can tinnitus be purely mental health or emotional health and be nothing to do with what's going on physically? If so, how does one pinpoint the root cause and come to a place of being free of it? Now, this is, I have to just turn my WhatsApp off. This is a really, really great question. And so I just want to caveat this to say that I would need to have a conversation with either you, Simmone, or whoever is experiencing tinnitus, because it's going to be a difficult question for me to be. There's no one answer here, like with anything, right? There's no one size fits all. There's no one unique answer. So yes, I believe personally, and the work that I've done around the body and mental health, emotional health, hormonal health, I absolutely believe that physical health symptoms are your body's way of talking to you. Now, when someone has tinnitus, what is it that they're having to do when they've got tinnitus? Like it might be a physical thing. Yeah, that might be the case. But usually physical symptoms are a knock-on effect of something else, the body's way of talking to you, fear coming up, or, I remember after my dad died in 2016 and I ended up in hospital with an emergency operation, the consultant saying to me, you're just unlucky, and me knowing in all of my bones and my heart that it wasn't about being unlucky. It was because I needed to stop running. And so, yeah, tinnitus is absolutely your body's way of getting you to listen to something else. But it's often very difficult for us to do that on our own. So just ask yourself the question, what am I being forced to do with the tinnitus? And then so in response to the second part of your question, Simmone, like how does one pinpoint the root cause and come to a place of being free of it? It's to literally sit down and ask yourself very gently, with love and care and kindness, what am I being invited to do? How is my body talking to me? Do I need to go inwards? And you sort of join the dots backwards. And that's what I would do if someone came to me with a physical health problem. I would be looking at all of the things that had been going on, how that person was thinking when they were thinking it, and joining the dots backwards, because everything is connected. We are all connected, body and mind and soul. So I hope that was helpful, Simmone. Thank you for the question. Number 4 is Jan. Right, Jan. Okay. This is a sad one. Jan's been in my community for some time, and she lost her daughter in 2014 to cancer. So the question is, since losing my daughter to cancer in 2014, she was my only child. I do my very best to get through the grief. I know from your posts you have experienced big grief. Yes, I have. Thank you for acknowledging that, Jan. Victoria was 32 when she passed. She was not married and had no children. She still lived at home due to not being able to afford a home on her own, and she achieved a degree with the Open University, but never got to receive it as she died before getting her results. Her dad collected her degree at a big ceremony, which was so hard. Apart from the pain and heartache of her not being here, I struggle with how her life has been dismissed by family. They never talk about her. The few close friends I had either have moved or have gone quiet with me since she passed. Why? ? So firstly, Jan, I just want to express my deepest sympathies that you lost your daughter. It's, you know, your only child. I mean, I don't think, I know you think that's relevant, but I think just losing a child is just horrendous. And all I can say to you is that I deeply, deeply understand traumatic loss. I deeply understand it. Now, you're asking me why your family don't talk about her. You said that you struggle how her life has been dismissed, and that the few close friends you have either moved or they have gone quiet. And I think the thing is, Jan, with this sort of thing, is that you said, I struggle with how her life has been dismissed by family because they never talk about her. Now, is that true? Is that the truth? Is it that they have dismissed her? Or is it that, and it might be that they have, Jan, you know, like that might be the truth, that they've dismissed your daughter. But equally, my experience of grief and loss is that other people don't know what to say and they feel insecure around you. And so they don't say anything, or they avoid you. They avoid talking to you. I know when my brother died when I was 21, I thought I'd lost a lot of friends, and I did, you know, like, but it was I've lost. It was my language. It was my experience of life. I lost my brother. I lost the father that I knew. You know, I lost loads of my friends. I lost my university place, like all of these things that I would have described to you through that lens of loss. But the truth was, I don't know. I'll never know why my friends stopped talking to me back then or went quiet. But what I do know very deeply now, through having worked with thousands of people who've either lost or have known people who have lost, is that most people are living in insecure thinking. Most people feel insecure about speaking to those who have lost, and so as a result they either go quiet because they don't know what to say, so it's easier for them to avoid than face their own insecurity about that. Yeah, and that is what I understand to be true now, but also because I don't hold any blame any longer. You know, I held a lot of anger and blame and shame and unfairness, and you know, I held so much of that in my body, you know, and that's what you're talking about, this pain and heartache of her not being here. And then there's all this sort of thinking about how you feel that they're dismissing her by not talking about her, and then you're taking it personally that your friends have gone quiet on you and asking the question why, because actually the question why is actually probably more to do with why was my daughter taken from me, not why have my friends gone quiet. And we might be asking the question, why have my friends gone quiet, because we're trying to make sense of the world without our daughter in it. And we're looking for some kind of grounding, you know, something to keep ourselves steady in the aftermath and pain of this tremendous loss. But we don't tend to get that from friends and family and external things. We get that from ourselves. We get that from our internal knowing. And then outside it will manifest as our friends are letting us down. Not only has this awful thing happened to me, you know, my friends are also letting me down. And we take it personally because we feel grief-stricken and we feel sad and we feel alone in that grief. And that's okay, Jan. But don't take it personally that your friends don't know what to say. Don't take it personally that your family aren't talking about her. You talk about her. You talk about her and say her name as much as you need to. Talk about her in the group if you want to, the free group. You know, in my circle community, we talk about these people that we've lost in the group coaching, in these Ask Me Anythings that I do. That might be a place for you to come in and just come into that lovely female community that supports each other through our grief, because there are many of us in the group who have been through grief or are going through grief. And I often find that when we have felt alone or lost or not good enough, and something like this happens, some grief like this happens in our life, it exacerbates all the things that were already there. It highlights them. It's not because these things have happened, it's just that we just don't know how to navigate our way through. So Jan, I hope you have some support around you, like, you know, if not from friends and family, from professional. You'd be very welcome in my circle community. But try not to be so hard on yourself. Each of your family members will be going through their own experience of this grief. And you're not going to get what you need from anyone else but yourself. Because if you even get a hug or anything like that, it's when you're going through this acute grief, it's quite short-lived. But that's the thing about emotion and grief, or any painful thing. It's always moving. You know, it might be really heightened for us in one moment. It might be kind of in the distance on another day. But what's never changing is your okayness. Underneath all of that emotion, all of that psychology, all of those experiences, all of the pain. You know, your okayness has never, ever been in question. You just haven't known that. So I hope that was helpful, Jan, and thank you for bringing that very personal question in to this. Okay, the next question is Debbie, and that's number 5. I have been trying to lose weight for a while and not getting anywhere. I am 55. I have fibromyalgia and I'm going through the menopause. Any suggestions, please? So Debbie, know that personally I saw your question and I sent you a video about the neuroscience of a habit. Let me know if you found that helpful. You may also have heard my talking to Paula in the first question about going through the menopause, perimenopause, postmenopausal, about the symptoms that a body will try and give you to alert you to the fact that you're not listening to yourself, you're not listening to your knowing. Now, you said you were trying to lose weight for a while, and I know you and I have had a private conversation, and hopefully you have listened to that video about the neuroscience of a habit. But for those of you that are struggling to lose weight, it's usually because there's some healing to do underneath, and the weight gain, if there is any, I know it will be completely unique for you as an individual and your experience of that, but it will be a manifestation of some way in how you're not listening to yourself, how you're not taking care of yourself, how you're not listening to your knowing. And so what we do is we disconnect from that and we eat because it fills some void in our life that we're not paying attention to, and then our body has symptoms. Now, you've mentioned fibro, so if I were to talk to you personally on a one-to-one, Debbie, I'd be looking at the fibromyalgia, the pain, what's been going on for you for a lot of your life. Like, this will be a way your body is talking to you. And I imagine that's probably many years of not feeling good enough and not feeling okay about yourself. And it manifests as fibromyalgia and weight gain. So my suggestion to you would be to keep looking at my videos. I would encourage you to come into my circle group or buy my freedom program, because that's a brilliant place to start to try and see how we are creating our experience. But the thing about eating, you know, having a habit of eating, or I'll start tomorrow, that sort of thing, is genuinely more about your repetitive, automatic, lower brain commands, which aren't actually commands, they're just lower brain narrating your life and what you should do next. And it's simpler than you think. But you have to know there's nothing wrong with you, Debbie. And probably like most people who've asked a question, the base foundational belief is that there's something wrong with me. So when I think that, if you remember from very early on in Paula's question, you will be finding evidence for your theory. And it looks like for you that you can't lose weight and that you're a victim of the weight and you're a victim of the fibromyalgia, rather than really looking at, like, what am I not doing? Where am I not taking care of myself? Where am I not following my intuition? Where am I not finding joy in my life? Like, this is important. Now, the final question comes from a woman called Tyson, who says, I'm curious about emotional repression and trauma being stored in the body, which can cause blocks and physical pain. Yes. And I said to her, is there a question in this, please? And she said, I think I'm just looking for your thoughts on that. I've been exploring it for myself and it still seems like it comes down to thought, but there's energy in the body that seems to be there that isn't from thought. I'm wondering if it's necessary to see where that comes from or why it's there, and if you can actually process it or clear it. Now, another great question, and all of these questions have been interlinked. So thank you, Tyson, for the question. Yes, I absolutely do believe that your body is extraordinarily wise. I believe that everything is carried in our bodies, but our bodies are unique. So we'll have our own unique way in which that shows up for us. It is all thought, but it isn't our, it's not what happens to us. And a lot of us have had traumatic experiences and emotional repression, which is what you've pointed to. It's our experience, our internalization of what's happening to us or what's happened to us. And then the way that we repress that, however we do that, whether that be through drinking or eating or scrolling or sexing, or like whatever ways we repress and disconnect from our emotions, from our feeling, from our experiences. And so for some people that can cause pain. For some people that can cause physical illness. It's completely unique, right? There is, again, no one size fits all. But what you're saying is here, I think I'm just looking for my thoughts. So my thoughts on that. You've been exploring it. It comes down to thought, but there's an energy in a body that isn't there from thought. So if I have an experience as a 5-year-old, I have an experience that's driven through thought. That will be how I interpret the external experience, because it's obviously things out there happen to us, right? Now, my internalization of that as a 5-year-old will be from thought, but that however I've experienced that, if I'm closing in and internalizing it, not wanting to be rageful or angry, or if, like whatever, this is so individuated, and I'd have to speak to you, if this is about you personally, I'd have to get into like, let's look at joining the dots backwards, like what were you thinking here, what were you thinking there? But our body does store this stuff, but it came from our experience, which is a thought in any moment. So say, I had an experience, let's say I had an experience where I was bullied, which I was. So an experience where I was bullied as a child on the estate that I lived in. One of the things that happened to me was these kids would bully me because I went to a different school. Now, I didn't feel like I could, hit out or lash out or, do anything about this. And when I tried to tell the adults in my life, they didn't believe me. So then I was being bullied by the kids on my estate, which meant I didn't want to go out. And no one believed me. No adult in my life believed what I was saying. So then they were accusing me of lying. So I was also not being heard. So what I did with that personally is I repressed all of that and didn't really speak. So then I started to become shy. This was something that happened. I remember it happening because prior to that, I was a bit like I am now, like outgoing and bossy and, energetic. That was what I was like as a little child. And then I got put into a different school and all these things started to happen. Now, these things can happen to anyone, and worse things, but this sort of thing can happen to anyone. It's my experience of that and how I push that down personally in my own body. But it's, again, unique, but it starts from a thought, my experience of that. Someone else might have been bullied and gone, fuck off, and hit them and lashed out and then not been bullied. I know someone else who in my life who was bullied, quote unquote, and just sort of fought them and was the complete opposite of me, of like going into myself. This person, went out there and was like, rah. So this person didn't get bullied anymore, but the experience, I guess, is the same. It's just our experience is different. So how we interpret anything that happens in our life will be interpreted through thought. And then that energy, whatever it is, gets stored in the body or not, depending on how we deal with it, how we internalize it or not, how we work through that, whether we feel victim or not. whether we feel heard or not. But the baseline is this: do we feel safe? Do I feel safe? Do I feel safe to express myself, to express my anger, to express my rage, to express my pain, to express my hurt, to stand up for myself to bullies? You know, do I feel safe? So from your question, what I want to say is, yes, it is possible to process this stuff. Yes, it is possible to clear this stuff, because that's what I have done. I have done that with the help of a very, very brilliant coach who I interviewed a couple of episodes back on my podcast. He has helped me process a lot of this conscious stuff that was driving my behavior, that was showing up in my body. And again, if you look at that video of me being coached back in 2018, you'll see the impact of this pain and this trauma and this grief and this anxiety and this PTSD. You'll see it on my face, because that's all you can see. The rest of me, I could tell you, but absolutely you can see it in someone's energy. And yes, it's possible to clear it, but that takes, again, it takes work, and it takes being able to connect to that part of you that knows you're okay. It takes feeling safe enough to do that. It takes a good coach to help you move through this sometimes really sticky and tricky waters. So thank you, guys. Those are all my questions that I had. And I love doing this sort of thing. I love I do these Ask Me Anythings, as I've said, in my circle community. I love doing it. So yes, I really appreciate, and I hope that this has been helpful for you. I'd really encourage you to, for those of you that are interested, to do my signature program, the Freedom Program, and work your way through that. You'd get access to my circle group if you did that as part of the program, or just come into my circle, which is a wonderful group of women where we do lots of things like this, group coaching and Ask Me Anything. So it's been an honor. It's always an honor to have you in the community, to have you trust me. And I will talk to you very soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful Christmas. Lots of love. Thank you for listening to Courage, Dear Heart. I really appreciate it. It would be amazing if you could leave me a review and press subscribe, so that others who are looking to find freedom from anxiety and habits can find their way here. You can also go to my website, iamcharliewall.com, and subscribe, sign up for my emails, and you'll also find my Facebook group, Finding Freedom from Habits and Anxiety, on Facebook. So yeah, please do connect with me, and I'll see you next week.